Party shares pause with the new Congress Party and an alliance. The ruling party further scooped all the two local government by-elections held in Mongu in Western Province and Pongwe on the Copper Belt. With the euphoria dying down, parties are now getting back to the drawing board to look at what they did right and what they can improve on. For the public, discussions continue on what the results mean and the cost of by-elections. On the program this evening, I host Economic Front President WYNTER KABIMBA to analyze the just-ended by-elections and also discuss other national and governance issues. We'll open the lines later on as the program goes on, and you'll be able to call and participate on 253025. Mr. KABIMBA, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Grevazio, and good evening, viewers.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Now, the biggest story ending the week is by-elections, and a number of highlights from there. UPND picking 3 out of 4 seats. That is all the 2 local government seats, plus a second seat in Wapula, where the party initially had no seat when it started its term of governance. We now have a new party in Parliament, new Congress Party, and an alliance. Let's pick out lessons from there. 1, UPND making inroads in new waters in Wapula, where they initially had no seat. Now they have 2 seats. Is this a signal that people now are buying into the UPND manifesto and what the party stands for? Yes,
but over and above that, it is a very good signal for UPND that it is mutating into a national party across the country. If you remember, UPND is coming from the backdrop of a certain stigma that it was only confined to one area and that it was not accepted in other areas. What the by-election in Kawambwa for the council chairmanship has shown, what the Pambashe parliamentary by-election has shown now, what the various local government elections outside Southern Province, Western Province, Northwestern Province have begun to show is that the people are winning across the country, are getting to gravitate themselves to the UPND. So I think it's a good sign for the UPND.
Now, somebody would argue, I mean, that look, it's a given that a ruling party is going to win a lot of seats using the power and authority of incumbency. Do you agree with that?
Not incumbency. Not incumbency. You can win a by-election because of concentration of resources and also manpower.
But that's what we've seen in the past.
Yes, that's one.
I think even when you and PM threw up by-elections,
yes,
you grabbed a number of them.
Yes, but
even where you were not strong.
But you remember, even under PF, there were by-elections that we lost.
Not many.
Oh, not many, but these by-elections don't come in numbers. If you remember the Katete by-election, I think we had featured the David Piri there. PF lost badly, and we were in power. PF was in power. I think the numbers were 10,000 for the MMD and something like 700 for PF. It was a bad loss, but we were in power. So I think the best way of analyzing by-election, Grevazio, is to take each case on its merits. So you won't find a principle that applies to all the by-elections, you know, in a particular period of time. You know, I think what the UPND now has to do is to have a very serious post-mortem meeting of their National Management Committee and analyze what happened in Pambashe, where those figures that they got commensurate, do they tally with the number of human capital they had there, the number of people they had there, and the resources that they put in that by-election? Because you can be celebrating when you put in so much money and yet your victory is just marginal. Then they can move to PETAUKE and figure out what is it that has made them lose PETAUKE by 2,000 votes. And this is against the background that they have made tremendous improvement. Because if you look at the figures in the 2021, they only got something like 1,000 votes. They have now moved from 1,000 plus votes to 11,000 plus votes. So in terms of numbers, they have done tremendously well. But there's still questions that are hanging in my view. I personally think that UPND should have won the PETAUKE Central by-election if they had not fallen victim to the Tonsa Alliance, particularly PF propaganda, which was to the effect that...
In the villages?
Yes. Yeah, oh yeah, that's where it works very well. Because you just plant it like a bushfire. And the propaganda...
So what was the propaganda there?
The propaganda was simple, that UPND is responsible for the disappearance of JJ BANDA. That UPND are the ones that are holding JJ BANDA incommunicado, you know, somewhere in some place. And yet, the circumstantial evidence is that the PF leadership is the one that is responsible for the escape of JJ BANDA from hospital. Clear.
As a party?
As a party, yes, the leadership. That's why I'm saying PF leadership. They know what happened to JJ BANDA. They know how JJ BANDA escaped from the hospital.
There are two main leaderships in the PF. Maybe you'd want to specify which one.
No, what I mean, when I talk about leadership in PF, I'm talking about the senior leadership of PF. Just talking about the leadership in PF.
There's the Mao Sampa-led PF.
No, no,
the
no.
Chavinga-led PF.
No, no, no. The ECO PF. The
That's what I wanted you to specify.
The ECO PF. Yeah, the ECO PF, if you want me to specify. Well, that's the one that is in the Tonsa Alliance. The Chavinga PF is not in Tonsa Alliance. In the Tonsa Alliance, the Mao Sampa is not in the Tonsa Alliance. So when I talk about the leadership of PF, I'm talking about the leadership of the ECO PF, which is in the Tonsa Alliance. So UPND has to be careful about this strategy by PF under Tonsa Alliance, that they can spread a propaganda that will stick, a piece of propaganda that will stick, and to the villagers it becomes very, very effective. You can imagine those people don't use smartphones like you and I. They don't even have access, you know, to social media. All that they have is this bushfire-like kind of transmission of the message.
Someone would punch holes in what you're saying now.
Yeah.
One is that the whole government machinery failed to push back propaganda from an opposition.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying.
If people bought into that propaganda that
yeah.
the government was holding JJ,
yeah,
then they loved JJ.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. You know, maybe love may be a very strong word. You know, they sympathize with JJ and his family. Okay, because JJ has, from what I've gathered about him, he has roots, you know, in the countryside, in that community. He's not a town boy. He only came to Lusaka as a member of parliament. I think he's been doing business in the area. So he's got very strong roots. It appears like he has very strong roots in that community. So there is a great deal of sympathy when the villagers are told that a strong machinery, state apparatus, has actually captured JJ and is keeping him somewhere. That draws a lot of sympathy to JJ. So the point I'm making is that this may not be the only propaganda planted by PF. It may repeat itself in the future. It may repeat itself during the presidential and general election in 2026. So it's incumbent on UPND to find a strategy of fighting this propaganda. It's not enough to simply say, yes, that was democracy and democracy has won. No. I think they must go beyond that and figure out, you know, what is it that has happened. And I'm not an insider, but the view I see myself from my general analysis of the situation is that there was a strategy here in terms of propaganda on the part of PF under Tonse Alliance, and the UPND fell victim to that.
As an alliance partner, that's what you see. I was going to ask that the win by New Congress Party provides another possible talking point. The bigger question would be, does this signify the strength of the Tonse Alliance?
No, I think that vote was more about JJ than even the NCP, than even Tonse Alliance. That's the view I take. That's my analysis. Okay.
How would you analyze that? Pushing it onto Pambashe, possibly almost similar results. FDD, probably non-existent party, one would say, not very active, no structures, no MP, maybe one could say. But then the numbers there, you're talking of 2,614 against 5,000, half.
Yeah. I don't know if you're following my point. The point I'm making, if you contrast the two, I've just said that JJ Banda seems to be more aligned and rooted in that community than him being perceived as a town boy. Ronald Chitotela is not, you can't place him in the same position. I think what must have happened is he was in town here, he was a police officer, and then after that he was doing some small business. Then he decided to go to Pambashe to become a member of parliament there. He spent most of his time, so he doesn't have the same kind of connection with the people as JJ did have. That's my view of, and I think I'm right. So there isn't much sympathy vote, not so much as sympathy vote. There isn't so much sympathy for Ronald Chitotela because he was as good as disconnected from that community. Whereas in PETAUKE Central, there is a great deal of sympathy, for JJ from that community. And that in itself creates a huge difference in terms of how the voters voted.
So to you, it doesn't signify a presence of the alliance?
No, not at all. Not at all.
What are the numbers telling you? Let's get to the end maybe. What are the numbers telling you? Pambashe, UPND 5,067, FDD 2,614, Democratic Union, a very new party, 1,722. Socialist Party, 509.
Look, I wrote a piece on my Facebook page just about a month or so ago. And if you read it, the title of that piece was the fantasy of crowds during campaign rallies. Okay? How you can live on a fantasy island as a political party because of the crowds that you see gathered at a political rally that you hold. And I went on to argue in that piece, from my experience, that a political party has three components in it, in terms of its connection with the people. It has one, members of the party, and two, it has supporters of the party, and three, it has sympathizers of the party. Three classes of people that come into one whole called the voters in an election. I went on to argue, again from my experience in PF, that what you should really be banking on as a political party are your members, who must be reflected in the registers that you hold at the secretariat as a political party. Because those are people that you can actually put a finger on and say, you know, in constituency X, Pambashe, for example, we as the economic front have 700 members. So the minimum that we can ever get, if there is a by-election there, is 700 of our members, and then on top of our members, we may get votes from our supporters, and we may get votes from our sympathizers. Because the two groups of supporters and sympathizers may vacillate. You can't put a finger on them.
They may change positions. Yes?
They may change positions, even on the queue as they are voting. The people that don't change the positions are your members, because see, these, you are always in touch with them. They derive some benefits from being members of the party. What I used to say to to our members when I was Secretary General of PF, was that it pays to be a member of PF, because one, if you have a problem, for example, you come to Lusaka and you have a patient, and you report to the secretariat, who come to your aid. If that patient dies, we shall help you in a small way.
Yep.
Okay, because you are a member of the party. These are your benefits for belonging to the party. If you have a funeral, I used to receive.
And then you had no cards, so.
No. But we had registers. That's a difference. We didn't have cards, but we had registers. We knew exactly where our members were. I knew who the district chairman for Nchelenge was. I knew who the district chair for Nchelenge was. I knew who the district youth chairman for Nchelenge was. I knew them by name and by face. Now, those numbers that you are talking about are for political parties that think that you can just move into an area and you have a bit of money and people are hungry. You are going to have a small meeting here, feed the people, and you believe that that crowd or that gathering will translate into votes for you. Wrong.
So in politics, numbers do lie.
They do lie. They actually do lie. And that was the purpose of that piece of mine on Facebook. In politics, numbers do lie. In arithmetic, they don't lie. 1 + 1 is 2. In politics, 1 + 1 may be 0. And I saw this myself.
So how do you explain this Democratic Union? 1,722. Huge.
Yes. But
Number 3, from nowhere.
Yes, but those are people who didn't want to vote for UPND. They didn't want to vote for FDD, and for some reason, there's something that attracted them, to Democratic Union. Not that Democratic Union is popular, not that is a party on the ground. Those are fallouts in an election. And then you have other political parties that think that they are very strong, they are the fastest growing political parties in the region, and yet they don't have their formula. Winning
Why
an
did
election,
you mention them by name? I was going to ask you that question.
Well, Socialist Party, for example, you see their propaganda
coming up so well at some point. Now you can see their numbers seem to be dwindling.
The graph
509 in one of the by-elections, 578 in another.
In politics, the graph goes up and it drops very quickly. And I'm sure you have seen that. Look at every political party that has come on the Zambian political scene in the last 5 years, for example. They get 1 or 2 people defecting from PF, and then you hear everybody on social media, this is the political party that is going to finish PF. Nothing happens. The next thing you hear, even the people that defected, have drifted back to PF or have gone into another political party. Okay? So this issue of not dealing with the scientific variables of a political party and an election will just cause grief to people. And you see, what is interesting about the last 2 by-elections is that it's good that maybe good that that the opposition won in PETAUKE and UPND lost. Because what we have seen in the past, you'd have heard a lot of rantings, you know, that there was rigging of an election. The people who do not even have a political party on the ground want to claim for some reason that actually they should have won, except that the election was rigged. But now, they've been silenced. There's nothing they can say. Unless they want to argue that UPND rigged for new Congress party. So the point I'm making is this, that you win an election through strategy, and also that winning an election is a science. It's not witchcraft, it's not propaganda that you put on social media, it's not propaganda that you put in your tabloid. That's not what makes you win an election. It's actually a science. You sit down and figure out how many people are in this constituency, how many of them are your members, how many of them may gravitate to you beyond your membership register, and you can actually figure out, you know, plus minus the parameters of the results. That's what we did in 2011. We are very clear as PF that this is the Southern Province, Mazabuka, we can't get more than so many votes. Because these are our members. And I told Mr. Sata, there's no need for us to invest a lot of money in Southern Province, because it will be wasted money. And I was right. Okay? Because that was a stronghold of the UPND. So this, you know, and also let me add this, Grevazio, that after 1996, after the Nikuv register, that we protested against when we were in the opposition. And Nevas Mumba, Dini Mungomba, and myself and others were in a meeting at the Intercontinental Hotel with the President Chiluba. We protested against the Nikuv register. It was at that stage that Chiluba gave in, and the current practice of posting results at the polling station was introduced. That now results will be posted at the polling station immediately after they've been signed for by your polling agents. So following that amendment and the practice that has gone on after that, is very, very difficult to rig an election in Zambia unless you don't have a political party on the ground. Okay? It's very difficult. So I laugh when I sit back, you know, and people say, no, that was rigging. No, that was rigging. The question is, what were your results at the polling station? Forget about the results at the totaling center. Where are your people who should have collected those results at each polling station and totaled them? So after all, prior voter tabulation is allowed. Well, and officially, PVT is basically done. I haven't heard that as a policy pronouncement from government, but in 2011, you remember MMD had said no PVT, but we went ahead and did it as PF. As a party. As a party. So parties can do their own PVT. They can do their own PVT. And you see that they know the results, yes, before they're finally announced. Because that's the whole idea of collecting your results from the polling station. Okay? We sat in 2011, we sat at our data collection center somewhere in North Mid, and we were collecting results polling station by phone. And we had a toll-free phone. So our polling agents were phoning, and we knew the number of polling agents that we had in all the polling stations. And we knew that in the first 30 minutes to 1 hour of opening of the polling station, our polling agents would vote. How do you get one at a polling station if you are the polling agents there? A minimum of 2. It means even one of your polling agents didn't vote for you. How do you get 2 at a polling station, meaning only your polling agency voted for you? What about the people that were rallying around you as we are going around the constituency? What about the people that we are giving money to in the hope that they will vote for you? And these lessons to political parties that there is more to winning an election than giving out money.
Than handouts.
Handouts.
Lessons to political parties.
So you start...
Lessons to public.
You start that as a long-term investment. You don't just wake up one morning and you say, I'm going to participate in Pambashe. And you get there, you know, you don't even know how many polling stations are there. You don't even know the number of voters in the area. You don't even have a ward chairman. You don't even have a polling station committee chairman. Where do you start from?
We didn't see you in PETAUKE and in Pambashe. You, as an alliance partner,
we were in PETAUKE. Vice President Chikwelete was in PETAUKE for 3 days with the Secretary General Imenda and others. And our people were there.
And still failed to secure victory.
No, but look, this is a game. This is competitive politics. You're not always going to get a victory. What is important is what lessons you draw even from having failed to secure a victory. I think that's what is important. Otherwise, there will be no World Cup. It means all the teams that failed to win the World Cup last time should not go and participate in the next World Cup. But they will be there. Why? Because I've drawn lessons from the last World Cup.
Lessons for the public? You've got, in terms of peace, violence, things seem to have changed somehow. Of course, there's still cause and there's still complaints and concerns from the opposition of violence and intimidation.
Look, Zambians have come to believe in democracy, especially the part of democracy involving voting. Zambians are very sure that this MP, who doesn't seem to be connecting with us, after 5 years, we'll get another one. This government, which doesn't seem to deliver, after 5 years, we can change and get another government. This government that we are crying to manage their party cadres, and they don't want to do that, after 5 years, we shall liberate ourselves from their party cadres and vote them out. Okay? So, as we go on, you find that it is very difficult for any political party to incite the general public to get involved in violence because they think that is the way of winning an election. In 2011, I'll tell you this, and I'll tell the viewers out there. In 2011, I remember addressing 2 groups of election observer missions that were in Zambia. One of them was the European Union Observer Mission. The other one was the Commonwealth Observer Mission. And each one of the 2 groups, the question they asked me was, don't you see violence after this election? Or during the run-up to the voting day? I told them, I said no. I said, in fact, the voting day will be one of the most peaceful days that you ever witness in this country. I said people will get up very early in the morning, go and queue up quietly and peacefully until they cast their votes. At that stage, they have made up their mind. They know exactly what they want out of that ballot paper in their hands. So I said, you will not see any violence. I was right. It was so peaceful until the small, spots that, were almost emerging on the copper belt when the results were not flowing in. So Zambians have come to believe in the ballot paper, that it can change the situation. And that's why politicians have to be very careful the way they manage the situation. Okay?
Because Zambians know they have the power to make amends and to change anything.
Yes.
We have 3 or 4 opposition PFMPs that openly campaigned for the UPND in PETAUKE, and there's now a call.
PFMPs?
Yes.
Okay.
PF and independent MPs.
Okay.
But then there's now a call that they should lose their seats because they've, by inference, they've crossed the floor.
No, I don't think the inference is correct. I don't think the inference.
Why would you campaign for a rival party and still want to stay in a party that
but who says
you don't believe in? Then you can be chucked out.
No. But who says that? I mean, you know, this is a democracy, and I think we must be careful the way we stretch this issue of party membership. Even if I'm a party member, I still have the right to think, you know, to decide, you know, or to make certain decisions. Okay? Let me give an example. If I participated in a decision of the adoption of a candidate, and I was very violent about the adoption of a certain candidate, because I had reasons why that candidate would not make us win the election or pick up that seat. And for some reason, somebody bulldozed, or a small group of people bulldozed, you know, in the party, which often happens. Okay? Not that they have convinced me, not that they have persuaded me, but they just bulldoze. I have a right to support somebody else. Because those MPs, after all, they didn't vote, they were just supporting. So they have a right to do that. Why should you chuck them out of a political party? You should learn a lesson from them. Why would you say that they have crossed the floor? They haven't declared any membership. Otherwise.
But they've declared support.
Yes, they've declared support.
For a different party.
Yes.
You did that, I think, way back to 2007, when you kicked out 27 MPs.
16.
For participating in the NCC.
No, I'll tell you what happened with that. If you want to draw the parallel.
You blocked even your mayors from welcoming the president.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
That wasn't even support.
No.
Mayoral duties.
Let me.
But are you changing positions today?
No.
Now that you're in the alliance, it's okay now. It can work well.
Veramana. Yes, I change positions, but I change positions for a reason, and I can justify the change of position. So there's nothing wrong with changing a position. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind, as long as you have reasons for changing your mind. But the 2 incidents that you come up with, let me explain them to you, you know, so that the people that are watching this program and they don't know the history of that would appreciate. We expelled the lady who was the mayor for Lusaka, Mrs. Kazwe, from the party. And the reasons were as follows. When President Hu Jintao of China was visiting Zambia on a state visit, the MMD wrote a letter inviting PF councillors and the mayor, and clearly in that letter saying that the PF leadership was not invited. Okay? So we took umbrage to that. Why would you invite PF councillors, our councillors, to come and meet the Chinese head of state, to come and attend the dinner, state dinner, state banquet, and exclude the leadership of PF? So we fought back, and I went to the council myself and addressed, you know, the councillors. I was chairman of local government then, and Mrs. Kazwe as mayor and others were in that meeting, and it was agreed by consensus that they would not go to the airport to go and welcome President Hu Jintao. It was a Friday. I remember this incident very well. On Saturday morning, I'm at home, I get a phone call that Mrs. Kazwe and the 11 other councillors were on their way to the airport in a city council minibus. I tried to call her, She didn't pick up my call. I tried to call somebody, you know, from there, and somebody answered and said, in fact, it is the mayor who called a meeting this morning and said, Tule Nifyoko Airport. Now, obviously, that was an act of indiscipline, because we sat in this meeting and agreed, and she broke ranks. So we had to take action. And that was the end. There were people in the MMD who were cheating at that, you know, even if they expelled you, you stand on the MMD and you are going to win, you know, your councillorship. She didn't win. The by-election, you know, was declared. She stood on MMD, she lost. So that is the first incident. The second incident of the 16 members of parliament over the NCC, again, there was a central committee meeting that was called, and I remember it was at Blue Nile. And in that meeting, it was agreed. It was agreed. And we even voted. In fact, my position in that meeting was that the PF must attend the NCC. That was my position. Michael Sata's position was that the PF should not attend the NCC. At the end of that debate, we took a vote by secret ballot. And the people that said no to the NCC won. Those of us who said yes lost. So for me as an individual, I had two choices. Either to resign from PF or to respect the decision of the majority as a good Democrat.
Isn't that the same choice the MPs that went to campaign for UPND had?
No, just a moment.
Either to leave the party?
Let me finish my train of thought, because you have mentioned these two incidents. Because they are very clear. These are historical incidents, you know, that must be put correctly in perspective. After that vote, the 16 members of parliament, I remember they were led by Dr. Peter Machungwa, held a press conference denouncing Michael Sata, telling the world that in fact Michael Sata had bulldozed that decision.
Were they wrong?
They were wrong. They were actually hypocritical. They were actually lying to the world. Because there was a vote that was taken. And I can tell you, when we were debating this issue, some of them didn't even raise a hand to debate. And I said to myself, these can't be leaders, in my view. So when the next central committee came to determine their conduct, I voted for their expulsion from the party. I voted for their expulsion from the party. And a few of them that I knew when I met them, I told them I voted that you should be expelled. I didn't hide my position. So this is different from a member of parliament who goes into the constituency and says...
And campaigns for your rival.
Yes.
It's still fine with you?
It's still fine.
You would still let them. Then why does your party exist?
No.
If it can't hold together. Isn't that indiscipline?
No. You know, you should be a member
similar to the indiscipline that you didn't want.
You should be
your mayors and councillors to fraternize with the MMD.
You should be a member of a political party, to do. Look at what let me get this example. The Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now, who is Trump's Minister of Health, is Democrat. The Kennedys are Democrats from way back in the 60s. They're not Republicans. When he failed in his bid to win the Democratic nomination as a presidential candidate, he went to support Trump. He has not resigned from, they have not expelled him from the party. Bill Clinton, who was a Democrat, his Secretary of Defense, his Minister of Defense, was a Republican, and he appointed him. So if we want our political parties to function strongly, we must exercise democracy. And democracy entails that we must debate issues and convince one another. This is what we did with the Nakazwe case. We held a meeting and tried to convince one another. This is what we did with the NCC arrangement. We held a meeting and convinced one another. And the way we did that, we conducted a secret ballot. Now, if you are going to be rebellious against a secret ballot, which has been conducted within the party democratically, then you are a bad member of the party. Then you are a bad member of the party.
Let's move on and look at this issue from the public point of view.
Yes.
The public has always said maybe we need to amend the law further and prevent these by-elections completely, because they take out a lot of money which otherwise could be spent on other national important issues.
I've heard that argument, which is morally right, but not very correct. It's more of an emotional argument, in my view, than otherwise. Because don't forget that when the Minister of Finance is presenting his budget, he provides for by-elections.
Then we could stop providing for by-elections.
So this money,
money for
let's start
probably
from
hospital equipment.
Let's start from there first.
More drugs,
but then
more schools.
Then why don't you say that disband funds? Why do we have to finance football? Why do we have to finance football? Do people eat football? No. Okay? So that's not a very logical argument. So the Minister of Finance provides for by-elections. It's not as if there's no money for by-elections. They have this experience that there could be by-elections that will occur. So the Minister of Finance, in his infinite wisdom, provides for a vote in the budget, or an allocation for by-elections. Okay? So to argue that if you don't have 3, 4, 5 by-elections in the country, therefore you can solve all your problems.
Not necessarily all your problems.
It's just not true.
Not necessarily all your problems, but people still strongly feel the cost of a by-election is just too high.
Yes, but that is also, but the democracy is costly.
You don't believe in that thought? That by-elections must be managed.
I'm not persuaded.
And probably removed completely.
I'm not persuaded by that argument, because even the people that go by proportional representation, like South Africa, are arguing now. There is a debate now in South Africa whether or not they should continue with the PR system and not come to our system of first past the post. So there's no perfect system. There's no perfect system. It depends on how you manage the system. And you always don't change the system because of one or two of its weaknesses or failures. That's not how you change the system. No? So I've listened to this argument, by-elections, but the churches run with it. Mr. President, is very costly, to hold, by-elections, but they are provided for. They are part of democracy. They are part of democracy. Nobody has argued, like I've said, not that I'm against funds. Nobody has argued, that we are spending money on football. Nobody has argued. Because we need the football to image our country. This is a society which,
career now.
which has
it provides
many components.
employment and not only to feed our emotions.
It does what?
It's a career now. And
yes, but how many people? How many people? 11 players. 11 players, that is
plus administrators.
The employment you are talking about and administrators, So, Grevazio, we
it's
must...
an industry. Football is an industry.
We must be... democracy is also an industry, Bwana. Democracy is also an industry. It's not an abstract thing. It's also an industry. It's been running in many countries for many years. The British have been running it, for 700 years, 7 centuries. The Americans have been running it, for the last 200 years plus. It's an industry. It provides for stability in society. It provides for order in society. So you can't just argue that this component of democracy is bad, but it must share.
You have to save money.
Exactly.
Well, let's go for a break, and after that, I think we'll We'll be able to take in a few phone calls.